Hi guys. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm exhausted. I'm a lot better than I've been, but I'm so tired. So, as it turns out, if you have been keeping up with my community posts, I did, give you guys a rundown of what happened surgery day. So, I couldn't take my medication for 10 days. After I had, when I was in the hospital getting ready for surgery, David and I got up at 3 in the morning. We got dressed and ready to go. I had my bag packed, because I had to take my CPAP machine. I had to have like my rescue inhaler. I had to have, I didn't have to, but I did bring a spare change of clothes. I had what I had on. I brought an extra pair of underwear and I brought an extra set of pajamas because it has not been uncommon for me to bleed through my clothes, and I didn't want to go home like that. So I brought an extra pair of clothes. I picked up the depot shot. I took it with me just in case they couldn't put in the IUD. I said, for whatever reason, in case they can't put it in, I'll bring in the depot so that they could give me an injection of it. There while I'm there, like instead of having to wait and go into the office and blah 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 blah. Since I'm already there, they might as well, right? I have the medication, might as well. Um, when I got in, we got there at like 4:15 in the morning. Registration doesn't open till 5, so we weren't supposed to be there till 5. But David and I are both very very prompt people. Don't like to be late to anything. You never know what could happen. There could be problems finding a parking space. There could be, construction, because this is Fort Worth. There could have been a car accident. There could be anything. We don't know. We could get a flat tire, like anything. We were not going to risk being late. I'm sorry. The cicadas are very loud today. So we got there really early and we were just hanging out, sitting there. And he was nervous about leaving me, and I told him there's nothing you could do. Like, they're gonna let you in the first room with me. Like, after registration, they'll let you in the first room, but you're not gonna go further than that. You're not gonna be able to go into the, like the waiting room for the operating room. Like, once you get past registration, they take you into a room. They get you ready there. They set up your IV. They, do your vitals. For me, they did a finger stick. And my fasting blood sugar was 112, which is not normal for me. That's high for me. Like, normally, it's been like in the 90s. I have had 2 instances where it was in the 120s, like fasting blood sugar, and I was like, oh gosh, and I mean, it's still within range, but it's still high. And then so it was 112, and I was like, goodness gracious, that's high for me. I don't know what happened, but whatever. Um, and then they got an IV started here for me. You can still see kind of like the bruising and stuff. And you can still see like the poke right there. And yeah, it's ugly. And then um they told me I needed to get completely undressed. And I was like, but I'm bleeding. Like, I'm still literally physically bleeding. Like, I don't want to, like, get blood everywhere. They're like, I was like, can't I just, hold my underwears on until we're ready to go to the back? And they're like, you need to get fully undressed and put on this, the hospital gown. And I was like, okay. And then they gave me a pad and they said, here, you could just, like basically put this between your legs. And I was like, how? How? It has sticky stuff. What's it going to stick to me? I'm very sensitive to adhesive. I cannot have just bare adhesive on my skin, and that's already irritated and raw for having been that way for over a month. Like, no. I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I did what they told me to do, and I came back to the bed, and we were talking with David, and he was like, he felt really bad leaving me, and I told him, look, just ask them, how long do they anticipate this being? How long, like, when do they think you should come back? We only live like 15, 20 minutes away. You can go home, take a nap, just leave your ringer on. It'll be fine. Set an alarm, something. So he eventually did. He asked when would be a good time to come back. I mean, he was willing to wait there, but I really didn't want him to. So they're like, okay, well, the procedure is scheduled for 7:30. It's not going to take more than half an hour. So once we get her back, we have to hold on to her for about a half an hour, and then we can release her once her bladder starts to move. So as soon as she's able to pee, we can send her home. So they anticipated about 9 o'clock, right? They're like, I think 9 o'clock would be a good time to start heading back this way. He gave them his phone number, all that stuff. And they were like, we'll give you a call when it's time to start heading this way. And they did ask, like, how far away do you guys live? Like 15, 20 minutes, depending on the traffic. And they told me that I would be taken to the, like I would be taken back to the pre-op room where about an hour before they were ready to do surgery. So my surgery was scheduled at 7:30. So they brought me back. I ended up going back there around 5:40 or something. They took me back there. They started asking me all kinds of questions, and I was like, about anesthesia and like having metal in. And I was like, I do have these, I don't know if you could see, but I do have these piercings in my ears that I cannot get out. I don't know how to get out. So they're there, but other than that, I don't have anything in my body that I know of. So they said, it's fine. We just have to tell you that you could get burned. That metal could conduct heat in some way, shape, or form and burn you. So just so you know. And I was like, okay, well, I can't take them out. So, unless you got some snips back there, like wire cutters, because it's not going to be regular scissors that are going to get through. I don't know how to get them out. And they're like, you'll be fine. Okay. Then I seen my doctor, and she was like, so your pre-op blood test came back. And I took that pre-op test about 5 days after the other test that I took, which was my iron levels were at 8.1. And that's when they told me, we'll let you know if it drops. Like, we'll let you know if we need to send you to the hospital. And I was like, okay. So when they called me to tell me that they had this opening and stuff, they did tell me that it was 8.1. In the 7s is when they would have to hospitalize me because I would need a blood transfusion. And they were like, luckily it's 8.1, so you're okay. And I said, okay. At the hospital, they told me that my blood test came back and I was at 6.1. My blood count dropped 2 whole units or whatever it is that they count, you for whatever. So she said, luckily you had already anticipated that we were going to have to give you a blood transfusion. So I did have them hold, a bag of your blood type because I figured we were going to have to do this. She was like, but as low as you are now, I think I'm going to give you 2, like just off the bat. And then it's going to depend on whether or not, or how much you bleed during the procedure, how much blood loss you have then, or whether or not we have to give you a 3rd bag. So I am ordering a 3rd bag just to be in the room, just in case, because, we can give you the transfusion in the operating room. It's not a problem. I said, okay. So they set up my IV right here. Obviously you can still see the bruising. And I was like, okay. Then an anesthesiologist came and he was like, have you ever been under anesthesia before? And I said, yes. Both times I was incredibly nauseous. Incredibly nauseous. And the second time was worse than the first. And he was like, okay. And I told him, it's funny that you ask that because they had asked me that when I was talking to them on the phone, like for the pre-op, like questions and stuff. And I completely forgot. But I don't know why. When you asked me that, it just, like my mind said, oh yeah, by the way. I said, and the nausea lasted for like a week. Like the nausea was really bad. Really, really, really bad. Like it was worse than the pain. Like I don't even remember the pain, but I remember the nausea. Obviously, I didn't remember about it the whole time, but I do remember it. And he was like, okay, well, unfortunately, the number one indicator of you having nausea is if you've had nausea in the past with anesthesia. He's like, but good thing you said so, because now there are some things that I can do, some like medication combos and stuff that we could try. Can't guarantee that it'll handle it, but we'll do the best that we can. I said, okay, great. And then they did say that they would have anti-nausea medication sent into my pharmacy for me to pick up, just in case. I said, okay. So then they asked me, like, are you okay getting blood? And I was like, do I have a choice? Like, this entire time, I did not believe it was a choice. And he was like, I need to hear you say that you're okay with it, because there are people who are not okay with it for myriad of reasons. Religion is one of them, but if you're okay with it, then we will proceed. And I was like, do I need it? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, then I'm okay with it. I don't want to do anything that's just like prophylactic at this point, because I'm just so tired. And I don't know if you remember, but up until this point, I had the most irritating nonstop headache for about 2 weeks. Nothing touched that stuff. My regular prophylactic headache medication wasn't touching it. My migraine medication wasn't touching it. Like, I didn't even bother continuing. After a few days, probably about 4 or 5 days, I just stopped even trying, because nothing was touching that thing. And I was like, oh my God. And I still had a headache, this day, and I'm telling them about my headache, and I'm telling them, all this stuff, and they're like, completely understandable. The severity of your anemia is such that we're surprised you function. And that is just the honest to God truth. We are surprised that you were able to hold off this long without having to be admitted. You are not in a good place. And I said, okay, well, I hope that this helps me to be in a better place. And so they went over all the stuff they were going to do. They were going to do the DNC. They were going to do the histoscopy, however it's called, where they put the camera in, look around, do a biopsy of the uterine lining. Basically, they're checking for cancer or any abnormality or any abnormal growth that they may find in there, although they already know that I'm full of fibroids. And they were going to try to put the IUD in. So I said, okay. And then now they're adding, a blood and iron infusion. I said, okay. So then we went back to the operating room, and I just remember being freezing, like I was shivering. And they were like, it's cold in here. Of course you're gonna shiver, but you're also very anemic, and we're surprised that you're not in sweats all day every day. And I was like, I'm cold, I can't help it. Like, I moved over to the operating table, bed, whatever. And I was like so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so embarrassed, you guys. I was like, I'm so sorry. I know that there's blood on the other bed. And they're like, it's okay. It's okay. We knew that this was, we knew the situation. It's not like we weren't prepared for this. It's okay. But I was like, oh, I hated it. And then they asked me something. I think they asked me like, do you want the headrest up or something? And next thing I know, I was being woken up telling me to try to go to the bathroom. And I was like, okay. They were telling me, your husband's on the way, and what kind of car does he drive? And I was like, huh? Like, I couldn't, my brain wasn't functioning. And they're like, it's okay. Let's just try to use the restroom, because once you can, relieve your bladder, you can go home. But until then, you can't go home. And they did also tell me, also when I was talking to my OB, she told me, we're concerned that we may need to keep you overnight. I will do everything we can to not do that, because I know how concerned you are about having to be here in the hospital. I know that the financial aspect is a big deal for me. And I did tell her, obviously if my life depends on it, I'm not going to fight anybody over it, but I really would prefer not to have to, because those kinds of bills can bankrupt somebody. And she's like, I completely understand, but we didn't anticipate your blood loss being this bad, this fast. So It's all going to depend on how much you bleed during surgery. I said, okay. They did tell me that if I bleed through one pad in 1 hour, that they would have to keep me. I bled through 3. And then suddenly it stopped. It just stopped. Like they kept me, they told David to come back around 9. I didn't get home until like 11:30 noon. And as soon as I was able to pee, they got me dressed. I couldn't do it. I barely even like bend over. I didn't even know what was going on. I don't even honestly. I don't remember if I was woken up dressed or not. I don't remember now. But I don't remember. I just remember saying I'm so thirsty. By that time, even just in the back room, like my throat was like it was feeling like it was closing. It was so dry. Like, oh, I just wanted something to drink. And so they gave me like I ended up eating like 2 cups of ice. And I was just like, I'm just so thirsty. And then they gave me a cranberry juice and apple juice. And I was like, oh my God. They were like the best things I'd ever had in my whole life. And I was like, oh, because everything was just so dehydrated. It just hurt so bad. And I was like, oh. And then they kept asking me okay, so suddenly I stopped bleeding. And they were like, because you stopped bleeding and you haven't bled for 1 hour, we're going to let you go home. And I said, okay. So I was happy. But I remember them asking me about what car David's driving, and I was like, huh? And then we start going outside, and they have me in the wheelchair. They take me outside. I just look up, and I seen him. I seen him getting out of the car, and I seen him coming to the other side, and I had my backpack on my lap. And I go, him. She was like, because there was a few cars, but he was the first one, and he was in my line of sight, and I was, him. And then she was like, oh, okay, that must be David. And she asked him, like, she's like, I asked her what kind of car you drive, and she was like, she couldn't answer, and he was like, I promise I'm here for her. I'm David. That's Delilah. I'm here for Delilah. And she was like, okay. That was funny. That I remember, and I just couldn't stop laughing about it now. Then I was just like, I just wanted to go back to sleep. I didn't even care. And then he helped me get in the car, and it was raining. And I was like, oh, because I'm wearing sweats. Like I had these sweat pajamas on, and I had slides on, and I'm just so wet and so cold and just so tired, so thirsty. And they sent me an apple juice to go, but I couldn't open it. And I didn't know how to ask David to open it for me. And he was just driving us home in the rain. And, like he wasn't paying that much attention to me as far as seeing that I was trying to open this thing. And I guess I wasn't even really trying. In my head I was trying, but like I wasn't. And so he got us home. He got me to bed. And then I just remember taking off all my clothes. Well, I left my underwear on, but I took off all my clothes because I was wet. And I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and I couldn't find my pajamas, and I was just sitting there crying. I couldn't find them. Like, it's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. Like, I was crying, and he walks in, he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, he figured out that I needed my pajamas. So he went into the garage, and he found me a pair in the dryer. I sleep with sleep shirts on. That's what I call pajamas. So he found me some. And then I just remember him like kind of like pushing my shoulders back a little bit, like to like help me lay down. And he put his arm behind my head, but he was like, like that. And all of a sudden, I didn't wake up again. And the only reason why I know what time I got home was because when I was sitting there crying over my pajamas, I was getting text messages from the pharmacy telling me that my prescriptions were ready. So I was like, okay, and I could see the timestamp, so I know what time more or less we got home, because I don't know how long we were home before that started. And I just went back to sleep. And when I woke back up, it was about like 2:00, and I was so nauseous. Oh my God, I was so nauseous. And David went to the store, and he picked up my prescriptions, but there was no nausea medicine. And I was like, what? So I called I called my doctor, and I was like, you know, we went and we picked, or my medication's been picked up, but there's no nausea medicine, and I'm so nauseous. I'm just like, I'm so nauseous. And they said, okay, we'll send it in right now. And they did. And then David went back to the store, picked up more medication for me, because they not only sent nausea medication, but they also sent um, a pain medication. And I was like, okay. And then the next day, I woke up and my headache was gone. That headache that had been plaguing me for like 2 weeks was just gone. And I don't know whether or not it was gone the same, like the surgery day. I don't know. I don't remember, because I don't really remember much of that day. I just remember, you know, eventually when I was able to eat, I ate a can of Campbell soup, chicken noodle soup, which is my favorite thing in the world to eat when I'm sick. It just reminds me of like being a kid. And my mom is very Mexican, and she will make you a caldo of pollo like nothing else. Like, she'll whip it up in a minute, it'll be done. But I was I'm very Americanized. And I grew up here. I was born here. I'm a second generation American, and all of my friends were pretty much white people, and they didn't know what those things were. So when they would get sick, their moms would give them those things. And it was something that I wanted because I knew my friends were eating. So my mom would buy them for me. Just like comfort food for me. So I ate a whole can all by myself. David said it took me like 40 minutes to do it, but I did it. And he was like, okay. And then um, all of a sudden, on Wednesday in the evening, my feet ballooned up. Like, I could not stand in one spot. Like, I was trying to wash dishes. Not even dishes. I was really trying to wash a single cup. And my feet were on fire. They hurt so bad. And I was like, oh God. So I called the doctor and I told them what was going on. So they sent me another prescription for a diuretic. And I was like, okay. And that didn't get ready until the pharmacy was almost closing. So I didn't have time to go pick it up that same day. And I was like, oh man. And so in the morning when I woke up, I decided to weigh myself, and I don't know why I did it. I was crying. I was like in so much like just disbelief. I was up 12 freaking pounds. 12 pounds. I was up to 348 pounds. My scale said 348 pounds. I was in tears. I was like barely able to function. I was so upset. I know that it was not fat that I gained, but it didn't matter. It really affected me. And maybe it was still because I was still like kind of under anesthesia and stuff, because it hadn't even been the whole 24 hours yet. Because I woke up like at 5 in the morning, and they didn't put me under until like 7:30, 7:45. So, I was still, they say it takes 24 full hours for it to like leave your system. So maybe I was still emotional. I don't know. But I cried, and my feet were so swollen. Oh my God. My ankles, my calves. My ankles were like bigger than my calves. It was like terrible. And then all of a sudden, I woke up the next day, and actually that whole day, I was peeing. I would say at first it started like every half an hour, and then it went to like 20 to 40 minutes. So like every 20 to 40 minutes I had to pee, and every time I peed, it was like the first pee I'd ever had in my life after drinking a gallon of water. Like, it was so much every single time. And I was like, oh my God, like, is this all the fluid retention just coming out? Like, I was just hopeful. And then that morning, I weighed myself again, and I was already down like 11 pounds. So I was like, okay, cool. And I was still upset that it wasn't all the weight, but still, we're okay. And so I decided not to take my injection again for the rest of the week. So I was going to do it on Friday night and then I forgot. And then on Saturday, I woke up and I was just doing whatever I was doing. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take my injection today. So I actually went from August 24th to September 7th without an injection. 2 whole weeks without an injection. So I took my injection and I weighed in that morning at 336.7 pounds. So that is a loss. I'm a liar. That is how much I weighed on the 24th. Okay, so hold on. So I weighed in that morning at it's really hard to tell, huh? 333.5 pounds. That is a loss of 3.2 pounds. 3.2 pounds. Even after all of that, I was still able to lose some weight. So that's pretty exciting. I am exhausted, but better. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm still bleeding. And Wednesday morning when I woke up, I did have a clot, like maybe the size of my thumb, but I haven't had one since. And I don't think that I had one before that. I don't remember, but I don't remember them telling me that I had any in the hospital, and I don't believe that I had any while I was home, but I can't know for sure. And I am cramping. And they said that I could be cramping and bleeding for a couple weeks after, but it just depends on the amount of all of these things. And I go back to work tomorrow, so I'm like, okay. But that's where we're at. So just thought I would update you on everything all in one video instead of splitting it and making it two. Probably should have done that, but I really hope you guys are having a great week, and just want to give you some digital hugs. I'm not feeling very well today. Like I'm nauseated right now, and I just feel like, I don't know, I just don't feel right. So I'm gonna go take my nausea medicine and I'm gonna go back to bed. And I hope that you guys are having a great week, and you already know I want to hear all about it. Please, in the comment section down below, I want to hear all about all the good stuff, all the bad stuff, all the everything, so I could be there to help support you. Let's do the bed emoji, because Delilah wants to be in bed. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.